What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another very special edition of Power of Play, a Burnout Brighter series focused in on mental health, celebrating the Mental Health Awareness Month of May. We've had some pretty fantastic guests on so far, and today we have another incredible guest to talk about one of our absolute favorite games. But before I get into that, Destiny, what's going on? How you doing?
Hey, thanks for introducing me, Matt. I
You
feel
know I
bad
always
because
do.
I always forget to introduce Matt, so he always makes it a
A
thing to make
point.
sure he introduces. Yes, a thing.
I make sure to point it out very hard. Destiny. There we go.
Destiny. But no, I'm super excited to be here and like incredibly thankful that you could come on with us today, Mark, and talk to us about the game because I remember when me and Matt got codes for it and we were playing and we did a little review, we both like cried. Like I cried so hard that my roommate came into my bedroom. She's like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah,
So, like
honestly. Well,
yeah.
I mean, to introduce, we have Mr. Mark Backler from Sketchbook Games, the incredible developers of one of our favorite games, Lost Words Beyond the Page. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited. Like Destiny said, when we reviewed Lost Words last year, similarly, I was playing it and like I think I played this and Before Their Eyes, which is another fantastic game, pretty much back to back. And I don't think I've cried more in that couple days than in gaming than I ever have before. But Lost Words is just so special and it's so incredible. But before we get into everything regarding Lost Words, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What started your journey into game dev, and kind of how did Sketchbook Games come about?
Sure, yeah. So I guess I feel like I was quite lucky that I knew I wanted to work in games even kind of from primary school, so really young age, but didn't know exactly what aspect I wanted to do. And it was only kind of through university and then graduating that I kind of really learnt more about the different roles and a friend that I went to university with got a job at EA working on Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, and so he
Oh,
told me
nice.
Okay.
they were hiring, and so I applied and got the job as well. I didn't feel like I was quite ready for it, but because he had the same degree as me, I knew like, well, on paper I'm qualified for this, and so I went for the interview and I thought it went terribly, but it turned out I got the job. And
Congratulations,
Yeah,
retroactively, I guess.
congratulations on
Yeah.
that.
thanks. So it was a great experience to be there and working on such a cool project. And then so that was like a contract. I was there for about 8 months, I think, and then Lionhead Studios happened to be hiring at that point, and again, I was quite lucky, and me and several of the other level integrators from Harry Potter moved over to Lionhead and worked on Fable 2 as mission scripters there. So it was kind of how I got my early breaks into the games industry.
Wow, you worked on some pretty big titles. That's incredible.
Yes.
So
S-
cool.
Seriously, like that's quite the pedigree. So then you were working on that stuff, and then at what point did you kind of decide, you know what, I want to break out, I want to get into my own studio, I want to get in the indie space? How did that kind of transition come about, and what led you there?
So I guess I'd seen like a few of the people I'd worked with who'd sort of struck out on their own, and then with like Unity and Unreal kind of becoming viable options for people to make their own games. It seems like it was something that was like a potential option, and so I was sort of playing around with the different engines in my spare time, and just kind of had a few hobby projects. And it was only when I was at Marmalade Game Studios in London that I was I did a game jam, the Ludum Dare game jam with the theme of minimalism, and I came up with the concept that turned into Lost Words. And I kind of liked the concept, so I carried on with it, and then ended up sort of getting offered some funding, and so I quit my job and sort of went from there really.
Wow. So one of the questions I wanted to ask is like, where did the inspiration for Lost Words come from? Because it's such a beautiful story, and we'll talk about the art of the game and like all of the gaming mechanics in a second. But where did the inspiration come from for that story?
So it kind of evolved over time, really. And I had the mechanic first and foremost of moving the words around and using them as platforms. And so the character of a young girl seemed to fit well with that, and it being inside a diary. And But yeah, I knew I wanted to have kind of a strong narrative element to it, and so it was when Rihanna Pratchett came on board as the writer that she felt that like loss was a really powerful and universal topic that it would be good to cover with the game. I'd given her a pretty loose brief of, I wanted it to be a moving story and make people cry, but also
Yeah.
have the potential to help with a real world issue. So this theme sort of like covered all of those bases.
Wow, that's incredible. Because I was so convinced that whoever created this had had the situation happen and then turned it into a video game. That's how beautiful and well written it is. Like the moments in the story. And I hope you guys play it. If you don't play it, you can check out our review and then play it because it's an incredible game.
Hmm.
But like they're so real, and I was just like, this is like it was just because I didn't lose my grandmother, but I had just lost my cat. And you're right, it's a universal kind of theme. Everybody has lost somebody at some point, and like I still felt that emotional pull and that emotional trigger. So you definitely, whatever you set out to do, you accomplished it, and like it's beautifully done. So congratulations on that.
Thanks very much. Yeah, yeah. I think Rihanna drew on her own experiences. Like she'd had a very close relationship with one of her grandparents,
Mm.
and I guess yeah, like we say, it's something that we all tend to have some kind of experience with, or will do, and so yeah, I think Rihanna was asking all the team about their own experiences, and yeah, tried to kind of draw from lots of different areas for the story.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Destiny because it completely sticks the landing. Like I I was both like incredibly excited and also dreading going back to the diary section of the game every time because
Yes.
for anybody who's unaware, Lost Words tells a story of a young girl who's going through the potential loss of their grandmother, and as they're writing all these words down in this diary, you'll spend half the game pretty much in that diary, hopping from word to word with like beautiful splashes of of color and
The
like
graphics are
incredible watercolor
amazing.
painting.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the game, you'll spend it in this make believe world that she creates to kind of help her deal with that. And it's such an interesting contrast because the fantasy world, you buy into it so quickly, and the narrative and the story that builds there. And every time that, I felt the chapter ending, I was like, oh God, here we go again. Like, I like, this is going to be tough, but like, I so needed to know what was going to happen on the diary section because it had me completely engrossed the entire time. So what I wanted to ask is, where did that kind of idea come from to have these two kind of separate worlds that are obviously linked narratively and thematically, but how did you kind of come to that idea of having both of these happen, back to back?
Cool. Yeah. So I guess we play tested the game a lot, and I took it to a lot of different shows. And sometimes people would play it like before we had the two different sections, and they would kind of feel like, okay, yeah, this is a game in a diary. Like I get it. It's going to be a bunch more levels. I kind of see where it's going. So I kind of wanted to really pull the rug from out underneath people, and give them something that they wouldn't expect. And also, it gave us the opportunity to have a really different style and really like lush landscapes and very beautiful, colorful environments that could contrast nicely with the diary section. That's kind of a bit simpler. And then also, I was kind of inspired by things like the sort of fellowship story in Lord of the Rings, and that you've got these multiple threads and they go apart and come together. And also in The Watchmen, you've got the pirate
Right.
story that's
Yeah.
like this completely different thing, but kind of still like related. And so, yeah, I thought it would be really interesting to do something like that in a game and have these two stories that are kind of, seem very disparate, but then actually sort of telling the same tale and are kind of reflected in each other in different ways.
I think that was a beautiful way to tell the story, especially coming from the perspective of a child and thinking about how they are going to cope with these feelings or deal with these feelings. And I think you did an amazing job with putting her in her own kind of fantasy world, which kind of focused on her happiest memories with her grandmother, and her like going through this discovery and dealing with the reality of the situation. Like it it was flawlessly executed. So congrats on that as well. I mean, like I didn't know what to expect. We hadn't looked up anything on the game when we started playing it, so I didn't know what to expect, and I was just I walked away from that game like just really pleased on like the gaming mechanics, the art style and the story. Like I feel like you nailed all three of those things, and that's what's always important to me. So yeah.
Brilliant. It's wonderful to hear. Thank you.
One of the things that I most appreciated about Lost Words is just the way that the characters feel incredibly real. I mean, Destiny and I have both worked with kids before, so I feel like the way that you guys wrote Izzy, if I remember correctly, if that is her
Yeah.
name, right?
That's
Perfect.
right,
Okay, I
yeah.
got that. Yeah, this she felt like how a real kid would kind of think and feel in those situations. We've both worked with kids, so we have extensive experience working with kids, and it just felt so true to life. It wasn't ever saccharine. It wasn't ever too corny or too cheesy. It kind of nailed it. And especially there's a moment in the game that kind of just lives in my mind. So slight spoilers for it, but there's a moment where you're outside of a hospital room and your parents won't let you go inside. And just kind of hearing the narrative from her side and kind of really feeling what she's feeling. And there's a lot of confusion there. There's a lot of not understanding. So I was kind of wondering, were there any challenges or any like difficulties writing from that perspective and kind of deciding to go with the young girl as your main character, because I think you guys nailed it, and I was just kind of wondering about the process.
Sure. Yeah. We had a lot of discussions on like how old Izzy should be because we wanted to kind of get it right, and that there was pros and cons to her being older or younger. But I think Rihanna was very keen on her being kind of about 12, and I guess she felt like she could do a really good job of uh, portraying the kind of innocence of youth of that age. And yeah, I guess we weren't sure if she should have been a bit older to begin with. We were thinking, but I think it actually worked really well, and yeah,
Yes.
makes for some very powerful moments like that. And we also collaborated with the Wellcome Trust and a researcher, Dr. Caitlin Hitchcock from Cambridge
Okay.
University, and she was formerly a child psychologist, and then
Amazing.
she was kind of researching into grief and its relationship with memory. And so we spoke to her a lot. And yeah, like when we were first starting the project, we had a call with her and kind of discussed what we were thinking. And she made a few suggestions. Then when Rihanna had the first pass of the script, we sent it to her and she gave us some feedback. And then when
Incredible.
we'd implemented it in the game, we sent over some videos. So again, she could make some comments, and we could kind of tweak some things. So that definitely helped a lot.
Oh my God, I just say I love when developers do research. I think that's incredible because it just makes everything so much more realistic. Makes everything
Mhm.
it gives it that little bite that you need. That's a terrible analogy, but I think people understand what I mean. Um, I want to take it away from that just a little bit. Not that that's not important, but what I wanted to ask you about, because my background is in art, is who came up with the idea of the watercolor feel and the art design, because it is beautiful and it melds so well with the story that you're telling in this game.
Thanks very much. Yeah, so I was a big fan of watercolor and tried to kind of draw inspiration from all over the place. And like on when I was working in London, I would kind of take pictures of adverts on the tube that had like watercolor elements, and we tried to kind of get lots of different reference images from all over the place, really,
Mhm.
to yeah, kind of just give us as much material to draw from, and it was something that kind of evolved over time as well. Ria Lion Gold was working with us kind of on the diary stuff quite early on, and yeah, helped us kind of define a lot of the visuals for that. And then Emily Zhao as well, a friend of hers who came on board and sort of carried things on until the release, did a really brilliant job with all the different watercolor elements.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I like the contrast of like the light watercolors with such a deep topic, because I know when I first started playing the game, I was like, oh my God, this is like a magical story. And I did not know it was going to go to places that it went to, but the contrast really complements each other. You have this light, flowy, colorful story, but it's dealing with something that's actually very deep and very sad. So I think you guys did an incredible job. I don't know if that was like the intention, but it's just it's perfect. It's like when you listen to like really happy music and they play it over a really sad scene. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Mhm.
Um, what's it called? What's Louis Armstrong's song about the world or whatever? You know what I'm talking about?
Right, yeah, Wonderful World and
Yeah,
like
what a wonderful.
James Bond and
They
stuff.
constantly use that song and like put it over like tragic stuff, like videos of World War II, and I'm just like, this is not the right song, but it fits. Like it fits, and that's how I felt about the game. Like I was like, whoa, like I still feel very happy and magical as I'm playing this, but the topic, the subject of it is so like heart-wrenching, but it's perfect. It works out so well.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, we kind of wanted it to be a like sad but moving experience, but then ultimately uplifting. We wanted to kind of have a positive end and not be a downer. And
No, no. I think we walked away from that game feeling like it came full circle,
Mhm.
right? It wasn't like one of the what was it, Up, where like the beginning of that movie is just absolutely tragic and you never recover. You
Yeah.
absolutely never recover. But like if you guys play this game, which I hope you do, like it does come full circle and you walk away feeling good. I felt like it was a bit like Matt said, cathartic. It felt healing,
Mhm.
actually. So
Yeah, I think Up's a brilliant example as well. They do such an incredible job with that. Of like, yeah, it's the first few minutes, isn't it? And
yeah,
I'd wondered of like, what are the elements for like a moving piece of media? What are the main? Is it the music, or is it the dialogue, or is it the voiceover and all these? And it's like that. It doesn't even have any dialogue in that bit, does it? It's all just the music and the visuals, and yeah, and it's so short as well. It's like I don't know, maybe the probably holds the record for quickest time to make people cry in a
Yes.
film.
yes, absolutely. I've almost like
100%.
stopped watching Disney films because they keep killing people. Like I never saw Big Six. Is that what it was? Big Six? Is it no Hero Six? Big
Big Hero
Hero?
6.
Big Hero 6, yeah.
Okay,
Big Hero
I was
6.
missing. I knew it was something with six and big. Um, Spoiler alert, but that movie's been out for a while, guys. And as soon as the older brother died, I cut the movie off because I was like, you're not doing this to me. Like, this is ridiculous. And I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it since because I was like, absolutely not Disney. For the company to be a family company and like sell dreams and happiness, they are so quick to murder people in their children's movies. Have you ever noticed that? Okay. Anyway,
Mhm.
sorry. Random
I mean,
tangent.
that was one we because we wanted the game to appeal to a broad audience. We did wonder of like is it an issue if kids are playing it and there's loss in it? But I guess Disney was one thing when you think, well, actually, they're a company famed for
Yeah.
being child friendly, but actually, they don't shy away from the topic of death, and they normally do a pretty good job of covering. And I guess it's kind of an important service in a way of like Rihanna always said she thought it was better for people to for children their first experience of loss to be through fiction, and it kind of can prepare us and teach us and stuff. So I think it's kind of important that we don't shy away from covering difficult topics like that.
No, I think that's great. Did you say Rihanna?
Yeah, Rihanna Pratchett.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought you meant the singer, and I was like, wait a minute, she said that? I was like, she just had her baby, but that's all I heard.
Yeah,
But no, you're absolutely right. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
no, what I was going to say is I think like one of the fundamental differences, at least for me, kind of going into it between something like a Disney movie and, and what Lost Words kind of accomplishes is that the way that Lost Words approach it, it's a very human, very normal situation for anyone to kind of find themselves in. Like, I mean, Disney can kind of glorify the deaths a little bit, which I mean, again, like it's a whole part of the process and a part of storytelling. But the way that Lost Words tells its story and the way that Izzy goes through all five stages of kind of grief and acceptance is incredibly done. So what I wanted to know is like you've mentioned a few times that you wanted to tell a moving story. Why did you land on the topic of grief and loss specifically, and kind of, how did that, was that a difficult choice to kind of stay in that lane?
So I knew I wanted it to be something that could help people deal with a difficult real world issue. And to begin with, I kind of did a first pass draft of the story, and I was looking at the topic of divorce because I felt like when I was a kid, it wasn't all that common for like people in my class as parents to go through that. But now it seems yeah, like way more common,
Lots of single parent
and so I felt
families.
like
Yeah.
a game could do a service of sort of helping young people to cope with that if they were going through that, and but then, yeah, when Rihanna came on board, like I say, she felt that yeah, loss was something that was even more universal and more emotionally powerful. So I think I'd kind of considered it to begin with, but I wasn't sure when I was trying to tackle the story how good a job I could do of pulling it off. But I knew, Rihanna was capable of yeah, doing a brilliant job with it. So
Yeah, she did an
yeah, that
incredible
was
job. Please tell her that like we absolutely loved her writing in it. Like the story that she's able to like formulate and tell is just really well done.
100%. And I'm
thanks so much.
curious to know then, like, I mean, I love that you kind of keep referring to your games as like a service, as almost like a service to kind of provide some sort of emotional healing, or kind of, so, or at least a way to understand a story to kind of, the general audience. Is that something you guys want to keep doing moving forward in the next games that you're working on? Is that kind of emotional, mental health aspect something that you want to kind of carry forward?
Definitely, yeah. I think as game developers, like we're kind of in quite a privileged position, and we have a chance to say something and to make a difference and to help people. So it's nice to yeah, be able to sort of yeah, do all we can with that. And yeah, the next game we are focusing kind of yeah, specifically on mental health and anxiety. And yeah, I guess with the lockdown and the pandemic and everything, it seems like it's already pre-pandemic people were realizing how important mental health is, and they were starting to talk about it more. But I think with everyone having spent so much time at home, and you're cut off from friends and family, and so you yeah, I think it's really brought it home for everyone of how important it is to take care of ourselves, and the different things we might be able to do that can help or not. And so yeah, it felt like there was an opportunity to yeah, again tell a moving story that might be able to help people in a meaningful way.
I love that. Kudos to you for using your platform to help other people.
Hmm.
And not that's not to say anything about other games because games in themselves help people, but I love that you're focusing on mental health and
Hmm.
I'm excited to see what your next game will be. We will definitely be playing it. But I know we have another question and I'm going to throw this over to Matt and let him ask because he's just so good with the questions. He's just so good.
Yeah, so to kind of, close out the show, whenever we have a new guest on, we always like to ask about a game that matters to them, or it doesn't have to be a game, but any kind of piece of media. A game or a movie or a show that's gotten you through a tough time, or a game that you think deserves to be celebrated for what it's doing, just because we always like to learn a little bit more and make it a little bit more personal for our listeners. So is there a game or a piece of media that matters to you?
So I always found Journey like really inspiring and moving, and yeah, just does such an amazing job, like so well crafted, and is possibly the best kind of example of games as a true art form, because just yeah, every element of it is so
Visually
on point. Like
stunning.
such a beautiful soundtrack,
Hmm.
like the kind of narrative journey that you go on. Again, even though it doesn't have the it doesn't have a script or voiceover or anything. It just does a brilliant job of conveying that, and the way it uses other players as part of the experience, and it works, and so well in a way that it would have been hard to even imagine beforehand. I think they
Mhm.
just got there by iterating and trying lots of things and kind of evolving stuff. But yes, such an incredible experience.
Agreed.
Thank you for
Journey.
sharing that with us. Good.
Yeah, Journey is really one of the best games of an example of that. But Mark, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on and joining us. I've loved picking your brain again. Like Destiny and I have been singing praises for Lost Words for as long as I can remember. The work that
Yes.
you and your studio are doing is absolutely incredible and so important. So if people wanted to learn more about yourself and the work that Sketchbook Games is doing, where could people find more about you?
So we're on Twitter at Lost Words Game, and the company one is at Games Sketchbook, and my personal one is at Mark Backler. We also have a Facebook page, which is Lost Words Game, and we're on Instagram with the same handle as well.
Nice on
Yeah,
all
and,
the
and Lost
social
Words
media
is out on
platforms.
Steam, Xbox. It's on Xbox Game Pass at the
Game
moment.
Pass.
You can
Yes.
subscribe to that, and it's also on PlayStation and Nintendo Switch, Google Stadia. Yeah, so all the
There's no
main platforms,
excuse.
Steam, Epic.
There's no
Sorry.
excuse for you not to play it, guys. There's no
Exactly.
excuse. It's everywhere. And we'll also put all of those links and information. So we do the work for you. All you got to do is click and go follow. And please go follow and support them because they are doing amazing, incredible things. So
Mm.
excited. So
One
happy that you're here. Yeah.
100%. Make sure you go check out Lost Words. It is one of my favorite games of all time. Hop over. It's on Game Pass. You have absolutely no excuse. Go check it out. It is a game that you will not regret playing. And obviously, keep locked to learn more about what the Sketchbook Games is going to be doing next. Mark, once again, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you join us again in the future to talk more about the games upcoming. D, as always, it's been a pleasure. 14 Burnout. We will see you on the next episode. Peace out.
Bye. Deuces.